prance around the city in a Halloween costume, beating the snot out of bad guys. Hey, thank you for your service.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Daredevil Born Again Episode 4 video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references. Punisher finally came back. Welcome back, Frank. We finally saw a full-on view of Muse from the comics. He's meant to be the main villain of the season. Not to be outdone at his own game, though, Kingpin revealed his special happy place, his secret torture basement, and what really happened to Adam earlier this season. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the episodes. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. The episode title was Sic Semper Systema, which is a Latin phrase that basically means so always the system, which is a reference to the breakdown of the police system, the justice system, which is what his client is saying during the episode. Like the system is working against him his whole life, so things are just this downward spiral for him. You could also point to his conversation that he has with the Punisher, where Frank talks about the broken system of it all, like your system breaking down again, haha, don't you kind of expect this? Kind of sounds like a phrase that the Punisher would have on his mind too, like he is also against the system. But also a reference to the broken police system that allowed White Tiger to be killed by these corrupt cops, the group of cops that have co-opted the Punisher's logo, which they finally start to dig into a little bit, with Punisher acknowledging what's going on. Although he doesn't really seem like he cares that much about it right now, but that might be a misdirect. When Matt runs into the Punisher, we find out that he's been planning another hit. He's going to take somebody down, but we don't know who that is yet. I'm assuming they're going to reveal that before the end of the season, and that might have something to do with the Punisher special presentation that they're doing next year alongside Daredevil Born Again Season 2. Is part of them bringing Punisher back from the Netflix series. Now, they canonized stuff a long time ago, so it was always meant to be canon. So it's one thing for them to say that they're working on bringing the Defenders back, it's another to see them walking around, interacting with the characters on screen in brand new episodes. So a lot of this is like the beginning of more Punisher stuff happening inside the MCU, like just early days. In another connection back to the original Punisher Netflix series too in this episode is that the showrunner for Daredevil Born Again that Kevin Feige brought on to sort of right the ship, basically fix the show in the episodes that we're seeing right now, was the original producer on that Netflix Punisher series. So even without Frank himself in the episode, Punisher himself in the episode, there was a lot of Punisher DNA built into Daredevil Born Again just in general. But he is meant to be a critical character this season, like it's not just a couple of cameos, he's actually a big part of the rest of the season. This is actually pretty crazy too. Jon Bernthal just revealed that he actually turned down the opportunity to come back in Daredevil Born Again in the original version of the show before they had their big creative reboot. The way that Jon Bernthal described it, the writing was basically terrible on that original version of the show, and the fans would have absolutely hated what they did with the Punisher character. So apparently they fixed a lot of stuff with Punisher on the show, and that's why he agreed to do it. Also, he wrote a lot of his own scenes too, like he changed a lot of his scenes himself. The episode begins in the aftermath of White Tiger's death at the hospital as they're taking care of his body, bagging up all of his belongings that were on his body when he was killed, including his suit and his amulet. In the comics, it was his niece Angela that took up the mantle from him in the amulet next, who we see run into the hospital right after this, but she's clearly very little girl, probably a couple years away from actually putting that amulet on, but that's basically the next White Tiger staring at you in the hallway here. Matt clocks that he was killed by a custom bullet at close range, but the hospital doesn't know about it. He doesn't find till later, until he learns the Punisher's logo is on it, and that leads him to find Frank. But at this point in the episode, he didn't know the Punisher cops existed because he literally cannot see the tattoos on their bodies. He's blind. Otherwise, he would have immediately known the connection, like, oh, you all have Punisher tattoos on.
Logo I found on the bullet casing.
When they leave the room, notice he has Hector's belongings, including the amulet with him, so he can give it to his family, and eventually his niece will take it up. We will see if they ever reference that again in the future of the show. His niece seems very precocious, like they really want to lean on the fact that someday she'll be so pissed off, like she'll continue to have that chip on her shoulder, so pissed off about what happened to her uncle, that she will pick up the mantle and try to carry out justice in his name. This is how the origins of a lot of street-level vigilantes in the MCU work, where they're inspired by tragic events in their lives. Like, this is a defining event for her. When Matt mentions believing someone will find White Tiger's killer eventually, he's talking about Punisher and himself. They are those guys that will find out who did this. We go to a shot of one of Muse's murals. This time is of Kingpin. The light and the darker halves are meant to be a metaphor for the entire episode, where both Daredevil and Kingpin's darker halves start to emerge more. They literally referenced that during their Heat diner scene when they were talking about their darker halves. They show Muse's other Punisher art that we saw previously in an earlier episode to foreshadow him showing up later in the episode, also Muse himself showing up in the episode. We finally see him in costume. He looks like he's right out of the comics, taking another one of his victims down into his lair to turn him into another piece of artwork. So in the comics, he uses people to make art, gruesome sculptures, murals with blood, every type of art you could possibly make with people's body parts. But in the comics, a lot of his victims are Inhumans. On the show, I don't think they're doing that part. They're not getting into the Inhumans part of it. They're just meant to be regular people that are his victims. I don't know if Muse on the show also has the same special powers that he does in the comics. In the comics, he has the ability to block Daredevil's radar sense, so Daredevil's abilities don't work when he's fighting him. It's just way harder for him to take Muse down. As we saw earlier, Muse is meant to be this character whose name is Bastion on the show, played by Hunter Doohan from Wednesday, who asked Heather Glenn to become his therapist, but we haven't really pushed that storyline forward yet. We haven't seen Heather Glenn with him yet. There are a couple references she made at the end of the episode to crazy cases that she had during the day that she had to deal with. And I think in addition to her alluding to meeting with Kingpin and Vanessa, them being her clients, I think she was also alluding to meeting with Muse's character too, but she doesn't know that this Bastion character is Muse. During the opening credits, they make a minor change. They added John Bernthal's name because he's debuting in this episode. BB is working Daniel Blake up like she's trying to butter him up so she can get closer to Kingpin. Very clear what she's doing here, like she has him wrapped around her finger pretty tightly. Seems like he's going to continue spilling his guts to her. Even after what happens in this episode, I'm sure she'll continue to work him up and down. She gets him blabbing about Kingpin's secret meetings, the new recycling company that they talk about later in the episode that he winds up having to cancel, and she reports on basically outing Kingpin as a big union buster, trying to turn the city against him, like a very negative piece against him. When they go outside the club, you see another one of Muse's murals, this time of White Tiger, titled Vigilante Justice, R.I.P. White Tiger. She makes a Captain Planet reference, which is funny because Don Cheadle's Rhodey in the MCU also played Captain Planet in a parody skit. He was like a really hardcore R-rated version of Captain Planet back in the day. We see a couple regular cops show up to arrest this guy that Matt Lin later helps in the episode, where we get the title of the episode just in general, where he talks about the breakdown in the system. Arrested for stealing some treats from a bodega. Then the next day as the sun is coming up, Daredevil's on the rooftop thinking about White Tiger, his Daredevil horn, what Karen said to him when she left, like, you should be Daredevil again, which is basically him just hinting that he'll put the costume back on, as we see at the end of the episode too, when he unfurls his secret hiding place where he keeps a bunch of his costumes. He gets the call from Kristen McDuffie, who puts him on the new case for Leroy Bradford, the person that was arrested for stealing those treats, sending him downtown. There's a little bit of exposition during their conversation, too, about securing a bank as a new client. I think that's setting up the cameo scene from Kamala Khan's father, too, in a later episode. But I don't know which episode that's going to wind up being. But I think that's why he was talking about banks. She mentions having trouble with a Madison case. That'll also probably wind up being in a future episode, too. Then we get Kingpin and Vanessa in another therapy session talking all about Adam, her lover, and there's a lot of talk about him. Like, they go on and on and on specifically about Adam. So even before they reveal him at the end of the episode, I was pretty confident, like, oh, they're probably going to show us what happened to him. The Kingpin has been keeping him in some kind of torture basement this whole time. Later in the therapy session, there are also specific lines of dialogue about not knowing where he went. Like, we have no idea what happened to him in a weird way. So just very clearly teeing up the end of the episode where they reveal what happened to him. Feels like this is also confirmation for why his knuckles are always bloody episode to episode, because he's been beating the crap out of him on the regular and enjoying some fine dining while watching him thrashing himself against his bars there. There's a lot to unpack in that Kingpin scene at the end of the episode. Don't worry, we'll get to that too, because he also has his painting wrapping in a snowstorm with the blood from Season 3 still on it. That's his blood from the end of Season 3 in his Daredevil fight. When Vanessa reveals that Adam was an artist, she's an art dealer, so that kind of tracks she'd be drawn to that kind of person. I also feel like Kingpin left the meeting and promptly crushed both of Adam's hands, if he hadn't already, given how much Vanessa said she loved his hands. I also think Vanessa probably knows what really happened to Adam because we've actually seen trailer scenes where they're both having dinner in front of that painting inside the torture basement. So it seems like at some point they both get on this weird kink watching Adam be tortured. Feels like a very Kingpin kind of thing to do, like really getting off on watching people being tortured. Then there's a moment where it seems like Vanessa is going to get her hooks into Heather Glenn in the way that Kingpin basically twists other people to his will, like bends them to his will. Just seems like the vibe here is that Heather Glenn is underestimating Vanessa, thinking that she's not in control, like, oh, is he hurting you? Is he doing anything bad to you? What's going on? And in reality, Vanessa is the real danger here in this therapy group of theirs. Like, even though Kingpin is a very terrifying person, she is a very manipulative, very smart person. So it just seems like at some point she's going to wind up manipulating Heather Glenn. Maybe that will spill over into the Kingpin and Daredevil stuff, because remember, Vanessa also knows that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. She'll probably figure out at some point, if she doesn't already know, that Heather Glenn is going out with him. We get another BB report. It's the same dude from last week's episode who talks about why he thinks New York City needs vigilantes, why he wants to be a vigilante himself. Like, if I wasn't so old, I'd be out there on the streets myself as a vigilante. Matt then goes to meet Leroy Bradford at the police station, accused of stealing those snacks from the bodega. Fiddle Faddle is an actual real-life brand, too. Like, you can actually go out and buy that right now. There are a couple funny moments during this, too, where, like, he tries to blame the Skrulls for the theft. Matt, not amused, not laughing. But the real comedy here is this is probably an actual problem in the judicial systems of the MCU in every country. Anytime anybody is accused of something in the MCU, like killing someone or stealing something, they could just blame it on like a ghostly apparition. Like, oh, a ghost stole it, or it was an act of magic, or like an alien god came and did this, killed this person, not me. And what are the court systems going to do against that alien godlike creature or that ghostly apparition? There's nothing they could do about it. They literally just addressed this on the Invincible TV show during season 3, where in the Invincible universe, the prosecutor from the city basically said, look, dude, what do you want us to do? He's basically the most powerful person on the planet. We couldn't arrest him if we tried. So basically it was them saying in the Invincible universe, characters like that, super powerful characters, are really above the law. Not just in metaphor, they are literally and metaphorically above the law. Whereas in the MCU, they try to skirt that line a little bit, like the whole Skrull line was a bit of a reference to that, like it was a Skrull that did this, arrest the Skrulls.
Could it have been a Skrull?
Like imagine a Celestial shows up and destroys part of the Earth, they're not going to try and arrest the Celestial. So it's all to say that trying to be a lawyer inside a superhero universe where magic and all these things exist would be a complete nightmare. Leroy refuses to take a plea deal and wants to go to jail to serve the lesser sentence because he'll get out faster, so they introduce Sophia, one of the prosecutors. Matt mentions Latvian Heritage Day. Latvia, Doctor Doom references. It just feels like they're making a bunch of Doctor Doom references in this episode because we're literally about to see Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom show up during the Fantastic Four movie Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars next year. We are right about to get as much Latvia Doctor Doom as you'd ever want to get the next couple years. She reveals she's Latvian. Matt used his supreme senses to smell Latvian treats on her. There's a little bit of witty banter, like she gets pretty horny on Maine for him, the way that all women are kind of horny for Matt. And in the hallway, he hears Powell again, who he accuses of being the one to kill White Tiger. It wasn't him, it was another cop higher up on the ladder inside the department, but Powell is connected to him. But the way he listens to him using his radar sense, Powell has no idea who actually killed White Tiger. So I think the idea they're teasing here is that the Punisher cops, like these corrupt cops, are a very wide net and it's very compartmentalized, so not all of them are on the same page about everything. Like it's not a small club where they all talk to each other about everything they're doing. My assumption early on is that the person at the top of that chain who's calling all the shots, like the lead corrupt cop, will be the person that the Punisher has actually been after this whole time. Matt also flat out challenges him too, implying that Powell is going to eventually try to find him later with way more dirty cops next time. Like, next time I'm going to get you with way more people to help me. Down at the docks, they have a moment where Kingpin basically shows off his plans to completely remake the docks at Red Hook, like completely clean the place up, and how he hates red tapes, permits, and dealing with the city council. So it just sounds like they really want to push him in a more Kingpin direction where he just points at stuff and tells people to do whatever he wants them to do. Damn the permits. Also feels like he's going to squeeze everybody at City Hall till they just do whatever he tells them to do. God Emperor Kingpin just ordering his will be done around New York City eventually. Buck also reminds him about the gangs fighting amongst themselves. That'll probably continue to be a bigger thing in the later episodes this season, where eventually he will do something about that. Then Leroy and Matt have that conversation about how the whole system is broken, basically giving the episode its title. In a lot of the problems that he points out, the hypocrisy of everything and how the police are spending 5 times the cost of the stuff he stole just to lock him up doesn't make sense. It's a huge waste of money. That's all stuff that happens in real life too. That's actually a very common phenomenon. There are a couple of funny, awkward scenes with Kingpin too in the episode where he sits in front of a bunch of kids singing to him the Jefferson Starship song. It looks like he's about to crawl out of his skin, he just cannot stand being in front of all these kids. Daniel Blake sees that BB is predictably reported on all the stuff that he spilled his guts about with the garbage, the plan for the unions, making them cancel Kingpin's meetings for the garbage plan, setting up a couple different plot points. There's the Daniel stuff that's going on between him and Kingpin, their relationship, and his relationship with the other aide too, who seems like she can't wait for both of them to be gone. I was here before you showed up, I'll be here after you're gone. As you would expect, Kingpin blows his stack when he finds out what happened as they go to the Latvian Cultural Center for Heritage Day. More Doctor Doom Latvia references.
New mask. Same task.
There weren't a ton of legit Doctor Doom references, actual visuals of Doctor Doom or anything like that, but I just feel like that was the whole reason why they referenced Latvia so much in this episode, several times. There's the funny moment with them singing the Latvian cover of the Jefferson Starship song where he has to listen to it again, basically just showing how he's getting so pissed off at having to deal with all the day-to-day of being mayor, all the indignities, all the meetings, all the things that he doesn't want to be stuck doing. Then the whole deal here with Daniel Blake admitting to leaking the information and Kingpin relenting and basically looking at him like he's taking him under his wing even more, I think is the idea that Kingpin kind of views Daniel as a young version of himself, so he's already kind of predisposed to forgive him. But also, I think in the fullness of time, when he says he'll make him a better man, it also sounds like Kingpin will twist Daniel into another version of Wesley, like a clone-type character, or another version of Kingpin, he'll become just like Kingpin eventually, if he doesn't die. Usually characters on arcs like that go one of two ways. They either wind up getting killed in some tragic event, or they wind up becoming just as bad as the person that's mentoring them, in this case, Kingpin. And at least right now, Daniel Blake kind of seems like he's an idiot, so we'll see. Usually characters that are idiots on arcs like this wind up getting killed off, but he might wind up surviving to season 2, we'll see. They go back briefly to the same Muse White Tiger mural, and we get another BB report speaking out against Kingpin and his plan for the garbage. Daredevil goes to the crime scene where White Tiger was shot, uses his radar sense to find the shell casing, and realizes the Punisher's logo is on the bullet, going to find Punisher and ask him about what's going on with this. Here's the thing with this too, it seemed like he knew exactly where to find Punisher, and it wasn't like it was in some convenient place, it takes him a while to work his way into this very, very secluded room in a basement of an abandoned building. How would he know how to find him so quickly if he didn't already know where he was? So it seems like this whole time, for a long time, he's known exactly where Punisher's been hiding out. But at least the way they played in the episode, their reunion, they haven't talked to each other literally in a long time. Seems like they haven't talked since the end of Daredevil Season 2. There are a lot of questions about what happened during the 5-year time jump because the Echo scene of Daredevil in Episode 1 was from the 5-year time jump. So if Daredevil was very active during the 5-year time jump, Kingpin was very active during that period, you also wonder what was Punisher doing during the 5-year time jump. Maybe we'll get some clues about that in future episodes. My assumption he was just doing the same thing that Hawkeye was doing as Ronin, just going after the worst of the worst during that period. As he enters, Punisher attacks him promptly, just looking completely unhinged. He's taking some kind of meds. I didn't see what writing was on the actual bottle there, but you can write it below in the comments if you think you know what it was. Looks like he's got a few city miles on him. He's got a cut under his eye, so he's been in a recent fight with someone. And when Daredevil asks him about the Punisher shell casing, the way that Frank talks about it, he calls them fanboys of his, and his first real reaction to them is that he doesn't care about the dirty cops. It's not my problem, who cares? Matt tries to give him a bit of a call to action, helping out, doing some service, and then he obviously makes fun of Matt because Matt was not in the military. Have you actually done any real service? Which is a reference to being in the military. He jokes about Matt calling his Daredevil activities prancing around in a Halloween costume. Notice the full-on Charlie Day conspiracy board behind him covering the walls, too. Seems like he's been very busy since we last saw him. The way the Punisher explains it, he has been after a target and he's been planning to take someone down. And I think early theory is that it will be the person who actually did kill White Tiger, the one in that Punisher body armor. When he says he did help once, he was downrange. He calls him Red, like he refers to him as Red a couple different times, which is a callback to Daredevil Season 2, and the finale where he helped him downwind with the hand with his big gun.
See you around, Red.
So they use a lot of this conversation to sort of catch you up with the Punisher, especially for like brand new audiences that haven't seen him before. Like, oh, this is what's going on, this is the dynamic, the vibe between them, but also to longtime fans referencing the events of Daredevil Season 2. Then he takes Matt to task, saying that he wants to hurt someone Punisher style and wants his permission, like he feels guilty about it and wants forgiveness for what he's about to do, which I think is even a little bit of a callback to Daredevil Season 1 episode, like the very opening scene of the first Daredevil series where he's meeting with the father saying that I'm not asking for forgiveness for something that I've done, I'm asking for forgiveness for something that I'm about to do. Punisher invokes his dead son, R.I.P., and how he's still haunted by his memory, and how that's basically the thing that drives him, like that's his driving force, the trauma that keeps him going. They have a nice chat about grief and how the system is broken, calling back to the conversation he had with Leroy about the system being broken. Punisher brings up Bullseye and invokes Foggy's memory, R.I.P., still kind of wondering what's going on there, like maybe there'll be some secret reveal, we'll see about that, but they just keep referencing Foggy a lot, and Bullseye, because we're also probably going to see Bullseye come back on the show soon. But the other confirmation here is that Punisher knows everything that happened to Foggy, like he's clued up on everything that went down. Matt leaves, but this is just the beginning of the Punisher coming back, like eventually they will meet up again, they will team up to take on these dirty cops. Back at the Mayora mansion, Vanessa and Kingpin talk about their therapy session, the general state of their marriage. Generally seems like it's okay, like they're slowly coming back to the same page as Kingpin is starting to get darker and darker again, and at least in general, it seems like he appreciates that Vanessa is also way darker herself now too. There are a couple funny moments too, like a couple moments where you're like pointing at the screen. He says the line, like he said the thing, when I was a boy, and talks about his father a lot. Says he learned some of the best and the worst lessons from him, like how to do all the bad stuff, but also how to do all the good stuff too. And one of the lessons that he never learned was forgiveness. Like his father never forgave anyone for anything. Which is meant to foreshadow his part of the ending of the episode with Adam in that torture dungeon. Definitely not going to forgive for what happened with Adam. Matt goes back to Heather Glenn and they get it on. She does hint at her therapy sessions with Kingpin and Vanessa, but doesn't say their names. And they basically cut both of their ending scenes together where they go back and forth between their different moments. So Kingpin's walking down the steps into his torture dungeon, and then Matt going up the stairs into his secret hiding place where he keeps all of his suits. We see Kingpin walk past his painting, Rabbit in a Snowstorm, stashed there with all that really expensive looking wine, still got the blood on it from the end of Season 3 like I said, and proceeds to have some fine dining in one of those expensive wines while just enjoying Adam tortured in that cage there. Kind of seems like a very reverse Hannibal Lecter situation where he's so calm and collected, just enjoying his meal, watching this grisly thing happen in front of him. Sort of like the tortured Adam has become a living art piece, so to speak. You could also draw a parallel to what Muse is doing, turning his victims into literal art as well too. We'll get to that in a second. Matt goes to his secret stash. You see all of his 5 different suits. These are the ones that they're based on from the comics. We'll see him wear his red one later this season. I think he'll wear the black one during Season 2. There's a brief scene where we see him practicing with his weapon a little bit, like he's not ready to put the costume back on yet, but they're just teasing that. So I think it'll probably be episode 6 is my guess, or maybe like the very end of episode 5 where they tease him putting it on and we see him back in it in episode 6. Then they end the episode with Muse's latest victim inside his little lair there, his own little torture basement, just like Kingpin's, draining his blood, which he'll use to paint with. Like that's why he's draining the blood, because he uses it to make his art. Generally felt like the best episode of the series so far. Hopefully they can top this. I think they can. I think there's a pretty good chance that there's a couple good episodes left in the rest of the season. So everybody just post all your reactions in the comments below. And if there's any other Easter eggs or references that you spotted in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. We will say early guess is that Punisher will probably shave and put on a new Punisher suit as soon as Daredevil puts on one of those suits too. My episode 5 video will post next, and my full episode 5 video will post next week after they release it, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Got a whole lot of Punisher coming real soon. Everybody click here for that episode 5 video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that, and click here to learn about the Defenders coming back and what's going on with Season 2. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.